Also Amigas, of course. Do we have any Commodore Amigas among us? Not sure about that. It's another lovely day here in Mariposa, but we are on short stream alert. Why? Because I got a 1 o'clock appointment with the doctor. I'm looking forward to it, actually. Um, you know, looking forward to it because I'm going to get to talk things out, I guess, with somebody, a medical professional I actually trust and respect, which is pretty rare. Hi, Acacia. So I'm killing a little time till my doctor's appointment. Um, we actually have no power today because of this planned power outage. Hello, Arch. What's your name? Arch Taker Fraud 666. I gotta say, that's not a name that bodes well. I mean, can you really be an arch fraud if you're that upfront about it? Hi, Levi Samuels. What is up? I've got a doctor's appointment at 1 o'clock. It's 12:08 right now. I'm just killing a little time. What's Rachel's doctor? I decided to switch doctors from my doctor to Rachel's doctor. My doctor, basically because I felt bad because just month after month I just call in my prescription to get it refilled. He's supposed to do all these things that I would be like, and he was trying to be cool, and I felt like I was kind of pushing it a bit. So it's time for me to get an actual doctor that, you know. And, but yeah, he's gonna refill my Vyvanse prescription. Is the main thing I wanted to do. Um, I guess this stream is kind of pre-gaming a bit because I never met with a psychiatrist before. I have met with counselors and stuff, but I just had a general practitioner prescribing me Vyvanse. So not too bad of an accomplishment, but he originally, I had him prescribing me Adderall ultimately, and then switched me to Vyvanse for the last couple months. But then there became a shortage on Vyvanse. However, the amount they're charging for that shit, I'm sure they're going to produce plenty more as quick as possible. Well, it depends. You know, it, I guess you're right, basically. Meds are okay, I guess. you know, that's what it boils down to. Meds are okay, I guess. I don't I don't love myself the person I am on amphetamines, and I don't love the person I am not on amphetamines. It's like I had a doctor's appointment from. I got up, I don't know, pretty early, maybe 9 o'clock. I'm not sure what time I got up, but yeah, it's probably about 9 o'clock. I started up the generator, I got up right around when the power went off, so it went off later than they said. Well, what I'm saying is, I'd like to be an optimized Eric. I don't know how best to accomplish that. I see my current functioning not on Adderall is suboptimal because it's like, what am I doing today? I've got all these hours before my doctor's appointment, and what have I done all morning long until right now? I just watched anime. I found a good series that I hadn't seen before, Parasite something, and I've been binging that. Plus, I watched the new Jujutsu Kaisen, of course. It's exactly where I didn't want you to laugh. Not right there. Just go in your hole. You know, it's kind of like an ideal day to do chores. Yeah, I've already watched everything good. Okay, so just if it's a good anime, the answer is yes, I've watched it. I watched Punch Man twice. Um, it's a good morning to do chores that require power tools because I already got the fucking. Yeah, I do too, Michelle. I agree with you completely. The way you are is more defined by your previous trauma than it is by your type. For people who were traumatized in childhood a lot, that is almost always the case. Well, the problem with that is the people who have been abused tend to be much more subject going forward to both ends of abusive relationships. They're much more likely to be abusive, do abusive things, and they're much more likely to potentially allow themselves to be abused. I don't know that part really. I mean, to some extent, they're likely to invite it by being abusive. I don't know what to tell you about that. I feel very bad about that reality, but I don't know how much it can be fixed. If anybody could fix it and heal themselves, one might imagine it would be a TE Dom. Ever watch Welcome to the NHK? It's about someone with social anxiety getting used to the real world. No, I've never watched it. I don't have social anxiety. I have, I guess you'd say, general anxiety, but I think a normal amount of worrying about things. Life can't be a nonstop playground party. But don't forget the other part, Michelle Way, too. You're probably behaving abusively to loved ones, you know, in some fashion or another. At least you probably have. So I'd say it's more important to keep your own house clean than it is to worry about other people's houses in general. Now, when you are in an abusive relationship of some sort, like I was with Kimberly, that good rule of thumb gets turned against you. So you're trying to be accountable and keep your own house clean, and your partner's using your willingness to be accountable against you. That's how abuse works for me. You made Welcome to the NHK sound way more boring than it is. It does. It did sound boring. I agree. But you know what I wanted to point out, Fly Guy? Ever since you went on offense with a little Pop Tart, I haven't noticed Homie around much. I think that must have hit home what you said. I've been thinking about it. I think you must have really struck a nerve. Well, I just thought what you said was completely speculative. I didn't. You were just intuiting speculatively about what his this YouTube channel meant. But I think you were right. I think you must have struck a nerve or something, you know? Because I didn't put much weight into what you said. I just thought, well, we can't conclude really much of anything from that, you know? I didn't really say it to you at the time, but I thought, well, he's overreaching. But like I said, I think at the time, I think I said something like that at the time, but also that I appreciated the fact that you were going on offense. But I think you struck a nerve because I don't know. I was seeing him around. So kudos to you for that. You know what? I'm giving you not one, not two, not three, but four wonder points for that. Okay, that's about the most wonder points I think I've ever given because I'm impressed. Now I could be intuiting wrong myself here. There could just be a correlation between those two events and between that event and the absence of him. But I don't think so. So the only thing become your better self is to find workarounds for your polar and weaker functions. Well, it's not so much finding workarounds, right? As finding an environment and a circumstance that allows you to comfortably let your polar play and not get hit by cars, and they comfortably allow your eighth slot function to be shitty in its own in its own quirky way, without encountering a bunch of critique for it. You know, the thing is, toxicity expresses as critique of person usually. Sometimes it's appropriate if you're dealing with a really toxic person to critique the person and say, this is a really toxic person. We can't deal with the individual instances of behavior or speech because they're fundamentally twisted in some way that makes everything manipulative, everything designed to do harm, everything designed to control or whatever, you know? There are such people in the world. There are such unfortunates, as they say in Alcoholics Anonymous. Um, but generally speaking, if you're dealing with not broken people, the correct way to deal with them is to critique their behavior or speech, instances of their behavior or speech, and not their person. And not say, instead of saying, you're selfish, you should say, I think this thing you did was selfish. And if we're good, loving people for the people in our lives, when we do have legitimate critiques of their behavior or speech, we also afford them an affirmative defense that those behaviors that are genuinely worthy of critique are not representative of who they are. It's the opposite of what toxic people do, right? What toxic people do is they say, because you did this thing one time, you are this horrible kind of person. And not toxic people say, I'm upset that you did this bad thing. That's not like you at all. They don't try to villainize the person unless they absolutely have to, right? Unless the facts are so overwhelming and and the reality is so clear that, like, okay, you are a broken person. So I've got 40 minutes until my doctor's appointment. Probably leave here about 15 minutes before, so I got about 25 more minutes of live stream. If you got things to say, questions, thoughts, complaints, concerns, queries, compliments, quandaries, what else? Whatever else I didn't say, get them out now. She's making bars for church. They love bars. She wants to make old people smile. That's wicked, Michelle. That's that's very wicked of you. You should only make old people frown. Making old people frown is a good name for a young people band. That's a great name for a band full of youngsters. Is making old people frown. Okay, well, I guess I'll pull a bomb rip or two. I took half a Klonopin last night. I feel kind of mad at myself about that because, first of all, I was in I was in this total state of post sleepy week. So how strong is SI related to memory? Well, it's related to a certain kind of memory. You know, uh, autobiographical memory is very closely linked to that. Can I explain FI8? I don't know. Can I? Um, well, I can explain what eight slot functions are like. So, if you got eight slot FI, you don't like to be critiqued at all about being arbitrary, about the things that you're arbitrary about. Everybody should be arbitrary about things that are particular and personal to them. But FI8 is much better at being arbitrary than FI7. So, in for a TI DOM, they believe they're arbitrary just the right amount of times. They're arbitrary about stuff they should be arbitrary about, and they're not arbitrary about the stuff they should not be arbitrary about. But from a third party's perspective, it can seem very self-serving when they're arbitrary about the thing you care about and not arbitrary about things you don't care about, right? So they're subject to external critique for arbitrariness more than, say, ENTPs are. ENTPs are subject to critique for not serving their own interests well enough, not recognizing when they need to be arbitrary and say, I'm sorry, I'm arbitrarily banning you from this channel because you always say shitty things to me. For example. Yeah, I still haven't banned Jeff Shaw, although he seems to have stopped coming around when I removed a few of his comments. Somebody FI7th is likely to let that go on indefinitely, right? So FI8 is probably likely to be arbitrary sooner than that, ban the motherfucker, and not think twice about it. If critiqued, though, right? If critiqued on the matter, and you say, hey, you're not being fair, you're being arbitrary about this guy, you're not applying the rule, generally speaking, blah, 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 blah. Well, they're going to get very defensive about it. Now, because I understand cognitive functions and understand that FI is an absolute value for me, and that I need to be more conscious of it. I'm less defensive, or maybe I really lose my consciousness of it, but I'm less defensive when people critique me about being arbitrary. I'm just like, yeah, well, I'm chosen to be arbitrary here, so fuck off. This is my thing. I could be arbitrary all the time if I wanted. Why should I be Why should you critique me about being arbitrary all the time? You couldn't really critique me if I was arbitrary all the time. You could try to critique me, and other people might agree with you, but I could just say, well, this is my thing, and this is how I do it. You know, like that's what C.S. Joseph says, or Melissa Talks says. Somebody came in the other day, said he got banned by Melissa Talks for questioning her type, and get just like insta banned for it, right? Well, I think that's proof of. I think it's proof of that they're prioritizing obviously FI as a deliberation function over TI because they don't give a fuck. It's not an appropriate place to be arbitrary, but they don't give a fuck. I'd never be arbitrary about shit like that. Legitimate critiques are always left up, invited, not punished, whatever, you know. It's a pretty free place talking with famous people, you know. The freaks of the world have a decent chance of fitting in around here. Kind of the freaks and geeks of the internet. No offense to those of you who don't consider yourself either freak nor geek. You don't have to be included in that description if you don't want to. So it's a place where people who value that are gonna gather, and it's a place where people who don't value that are gonna, you know, try to use that to destroy the place, you know. But I've been at it long enough that I've learned where to draw the lines very precisely. Sometimes I'm incorrect, but I forgive myself for that. That's one thing I'm not conflicted about at all. I don't. That's one area in my life that I don't feel any need to improve on. It's like my decision making about who to chop and who to allow to persist. I have no meows about it. All of us are both freaks and geeks. Oh, I think of myself more as a freak than a geek, actually. A man with a great machete considers himself a whack job weirdo. Huh. Well, at least there's alliteration. Oh, by the way, Michelle Shocked, according to Michelle Shocked, I am a douche bro dickweed, which I thought was kind of a nice name for me. I don't care, but the thing is, I'm not douchey at all. Like, I was feminist before it was cool. I know, I thought it was pretty creative too. I like it. Douche bro dickweed. It sounds like a name of some kind of superhero. Douche bro dickweed, hero of rape culture. Like to portray me as such is just absolutely fucking insane. Thank you, phone. I know I have my appointment in 30 minutes. You know, I was always a mama's boy, and my mom was Or the feminist, for sure. You think she likes my attention? That's possible. She probably likes my response to douche bro dickweed. But I do give her credit for coming up with a great name. We don't have any power today. How are you live streaming, Eric? Wait, you don't have any phone bars back there. Actually, now that we got Verizon, I do have one bar. But that's not how I'm live streaming. I'm running the generator, of course. It's pretty loud. That's why we're in the back instead of the front. You can probably hear it in the background. Everybody in the neighborhood is running their generators. In fact, I need to go check on gasoline to make sure there's enough gas to make it all the way through the doctor's appointment. I filled it up this morning. It's supposed to last at least 7 hours on one tank. And let's say I started it at 9, which I probably started a little after that. Then that gives me until like 3 o'clock, which is fine. That's plenty. I don't really need more time than that. But I just want to double check that I don't want it to go off during my doctor's appointment. Here, I'll put on some headphones for you so you don't have to hear it. Okay. Is that better? You didn't have to listen to the loud noise. I remember that one time you were telling me how you don't like loud noises. Well, it's weird. The gas meter shows it's still like practically full. But started it like at least 3 hours ago. It shouldn't show that full. I think maybe the gas meter is not working properly. Maybe I'll go put some more gas in it. Alright, I'll give you the headphones again. Oops, hold on. Sorry. was loud. There. Now it's full of gas again. So I don't have to worry about it going off during my doctor's appointment. It's got plenty of gas to last me all the way through the end of that. So good for me. Good for me. You see how I did that thing with that thing? Pretty creative, huh? I needed somebody to hold that metal thing that I was pouring through, right? And you see I got bun huggers on. I got my bun huggers in the mail. And they're alright. I think they're a size too big. I want to really be hugged, you know? I don't want to just be bun patters, you know, just pat my buns. I want my buns hugged. They're kind of a small butt, so I think I need mediums. So, anywho, now I lost my glasses. Did you guys see what I did with the vise there to hold that thing? Pretty creative, huh? Pretty clever. I felt pretty good about how it actually worked. I was like, hi, look at this. I'm doing it. Look at me. So let's see how the old YouTube channel thing. I got some good news actually. Apparently soon there's going to be creators will soon have the option to take a policy training for new and existing warnings. Completing the training will remove the warning in 90 days and help creators navigate our policies. So this warning that I've had ever since I got take action. I can take action. It says now. Maybe I will take action. I'll get my warning removed. Wouldn't that be good? That would be excellent. And I wouldn't feel so ashamed of myself all the time. There are few things more shameful than living as me. I'm so filled with shame. I'm not really that filled with shame. If someone tells you a task, and as soon as they tell you a new one, you lost the first, how bad SI is that? Is that poor? It's not good. It could be 8th slot, could be 7th slot, possibly 4th. I'm not really likely, but generally when people are telling me tasks, I'm pretty good. Okay, so it's 1:45. That means it's time for me to get ready for my doctor's appointment. I don't really know what to expect. I don't have a lot of expectations as to how it's going to go down. I'm hopeful he'll kind of lead the way, you know. And we'll see what happens. Kind of nervous about it. This must be how people feel before a typing session. Yeah, the point is, great machete guy. Um, if that's happening to you, it's probably 7 or 8. Okay, if that's happening to you, figure 7 or 8 is very likely. Um, because especially if they're telling you steps in a task, if you're polar, you're not going to remember that for shit. Even though, I mean, if you're 8, you're not going to remember that for shit, even though it's not polar, because you're polar TE, right? So if people are telling you steps in a task, ordinated steps in a task, and you can't remember the second one after they said the first one, that's as indicative of polar TE as it is almost more so than polar SI. What am I getting diagnosed with? What I already have been diagnosed with, ADHD. I'm just getting an actual doctor instead of just continually, basically taking advantage of my doctor that I haven't seen in years, but he keeps rewriting my script for me. I just got tired of doing that. So same thing with ISFJs. Well, they're much more likely to remember those things, but they're most likely to write them down. ISFJs are much better at knowing what they need to write down than INFJs are. And writing down is part of their SI. Writing things down is. So they they're gonna be like, hold on, let me write this down. Whereas INFJs are gonna go, uh huh, uh huh. Okay, what was that again? um, I remember my mom had all these steps to do to use the computer when we first got it. She had it written down on a piece of paper, like first push the on button, then it was funny. All right, I got to split. Thanks for being here, everybody. Helping me kill a little time before my doctor's appointment. See y'all later.